Warning, the tips and tricks you are about to see are not meant for all of you high-level elite players searching for videos of tips and tricks on the internet for a game you're already so elite at. Just keep that in mind. Alright, now that that disclaimer's out of the way, I want to give you a couple more. These tips and tricks are probably not going to win you a match. They're probably not going to make you the best player in the game, but they should serve as a reminder of what to do and what not to do in certain situations. After playing PUBG for about 7 months, you come to find that there's only so many tips and tricks to go around, and all the tips and tricks out there can't be groundbreaking. Some are meant to help improve your game and make you a more well-rounded player that's ready for any situation. Now, I've made 3 other videos like this that provide 46 tips and tricks in total, so if you're looking for more than what's provided in this video, feel free to check them out. I'll have them linked in the description below. But today I have 12 more tips and tricks that'll hopefully make you a better player in PUBG Xbox. Number 1. Pre-fire when peeking. After dying to someone who seemed to shoot me before I even saw him, I thought to myself, how did that just happen? I realized he pre-fired. Now, in order to do this, if you know that someone's on the other side of a wall, the other side of a doorway, you can see them either in third person or you know that they're there in first person, or even if you've seen them there and you're about to re-peek. What I like to do in this situation is lean before I'm actually going to be visible to that player, and then begin firing before he can even see you. That way, as soon as he sees you and is able to react, he's already taking some damage. This is guaranteed to help you win more close quarters fights if you haven't been using this tactic already. Number 2. Close open doors on the run to save time. Now, when I first started playing PUBG, I always liked to close the doors so that people would either have to open the door to come into my building, and then I would hear them do that, so that would give me an indication that someone's coming, or they don't suspect that I'm even in the building, and then I'm able to ambush them. Now, I still like to close open doors, especially if I'm going to be remaining in a building, but I found that there's a way easier way to do this now, and I don't think it was even possible before with the way that the game played. Before, you had to open the door very slowly and then turn around, wait for the button prompt to show up, and then push X again to close the door. But now that the game's optimized just a little bit more, there's less input lag with the button presses, and so this new way for me of closing doors is actually possible. So what you do is, if you see an open door and you're running into a building, you just want to hit the X button a couple times as you're passing that door, and your character will close the door even when you're already past it. You don't have to stop, turn around, and close the door to make sure the door closes. You can easily just run past it and push the X button a few times while you're running past, and it will close that door. If for some reason it doesn't, it just means that for some reason the button wasn't hit in the time that you needed it to, but once you get a feel for it, you'll be closing doors left and right without actually even turning around and looking at it to make sure that you get that indication that you can close it. So it's definitely something that you want to add into your game if you're not currently doing it. Number 3. Take a boat instead of crossing a bridge. This is one of the more simple tips in this list, but it makes a lot of sense. If it's late game, or even if it's just, the first or second circle and everyone's going to have to go into the military base, undoubtedly you're going to run into some bridge campers. And say you have a motorcycle, or say you don't even have a vehicle at all, and you don't want to risk going across the bridge and just getting shot up from any direction, what you can do is, if you have a vehicle, you can drive the coastline before you get to the bridge and try and find a boat. That way you get the boat, you drive around the military base and end up in the back, and you can actually run up the beach where it's safe. Now, some people will have this same idea, so boats won't be as readily available as you think, but if you look long enough, you're sure to find a boat somewhere along the coastline that you can safely take instead of taking the bridge. Number 4. Switch to first person in close quarters fights. Now, if you're a third person perspective player, you might not like first person and that's why you play it. You might have no preference and that's just by default what you play. But either way, there is a benefit to switching to first person even when you're in third person mode. When you're in third person mode, you can use third person to your advantage to see around corners, kind of face a tree as close as you can so you can see all of your surroundings and still be safe from any fire, where in first person that's not really possible. But the benefit of being in first person is you're much closer to the action, you can see a lot better, and in close quarters fights especially, I feel like it's more natural, especially coming from a first person shooter perspective that I usually come from with games like Halo, Call of Duty, Battlefield, things like that. It might be more natural for you to actually be in first person mode, even though you give up those benefits of third person, but in a close quarters fight, first person is definitely going to be easier for most people to deal with. And sometimes those third person close quarters fights are pretty pathetic. If you haven't tried it before, all you gotta do is tap the right bumper and you'll switch to first person. It might make a world of difference for you, so give it a try. Number 5. Don't go prone unless you're in cover. Another very simple one, another very logical one, but I see it all the time, and I like to take advantage of it when I can. If you've ever shot at somebody that's running away or running to the zone, or if you've ever shot at somebody that seems like they're in cover, and as soon as they get hit or as soon as they hear some fire, they drop down prone, those guys are easy kills because as soon as you go prone, you lose all mobility and you're basically a sitting duck. If anyone can see you while you're prone, you're likely dead because by the time you react and get up, you're already being targeted and you're probably not going to survive very long. And tip number 5 is kind of a perfect segue into tip number 6. Be unpredictable running from gunfire. Say you know not to go prone, but you know that you need to run while someone's shooting at you and try and get away as soon as you can. If you don't have a good shot at them, or if you don't feel like you have any good cover at all, you're going to need to run, you're going to try and need to get away from that encounter. But the key is just not to run straight, because if you just run straight, it's easy to line you up, it's easy to lead your shots and figure out exactly where you need to shoot in order to take that person down. So you want to make it as difficult as possible for the person that's shooting at you to line you up, to predict your movements, and to take you down, and to ultimately end your match. I feel like I'm a pretty good decoy at this point. A lot of times I'm running and some people are shooting at me and I just keep snaking back and forth. I turn around, I do a circle, I just do whatever random stuff I possibly can. With a little bit of randomness thrown into your running game, you'll be sure to dodge more bullets. Number 7, jump to confuse opponents. And what I mean by that is jump instead of running. If you're coming up on a wall or coming up on a building and you don't want to have your footsteps heard, you can jump instead, and that will give one audio cue instead of a whole bunch, and so they won't know exactly where you're coming from. Doing this might allow you to get the jump on a player who otherwise might have heard you coming with your repeated footsteps over and over and over. Now there's also a way that you can kind of double jump without losing your momentum and losing your speed. Now this is a little bit tricky to pull off, but what you want to do is hit A to jump, and then as soon as you hear the audio cue of you landing, you want to hit A to jump again. If you're sprinting, you'll see that if you do this correctly, you'll jump, and then you'll jump again without actually losing any momentum. But it's easy to mess this up, and what'll happen, if you do mess it up, you'll just jump slower in the second one, which will leave you vulnerable. So this will definitely take some practice. It's something that you can mess around with in the lobby all the time. Every time you have a chance in the lobby, if you're not just in the plane after the black screen, you can do this double jump practice and try and get it down as soon as you can. Once you do get it down though, I think it's going to help out. It's going to make traversing the environment a little better for you, especially if you have to jump over walls or anything like that. It can give you that little boost that might get you ahead of a player. Number 8, shoot out tires to flip a vehicle. Now this one, my god. I spent at least an hour the other night trying to flip a vehicle, and it's near impossible. Unless you just do it by accident or, some random thing happens and your vehicle flips over, it's really hard to do. I challenge you guys to force yourself to find a vehicle, flip it on its side, and have it lay there so you can try to demonstrate this trick, because it's very hard to do. I think I spent 3 matches just trying to drive vehicles without dying to the zone, trying to drive vehicles without getting shot at, just to flip the thing over, and I flipped it over one time, and then I blew it by shooting out both of the tires, and the car was on an incline so it didn't really work, so I just blew the damn thing up. But luckily for me, in my very first stream, one of the players actually decided to do this. We flipped our car. I wasn't driving, of course, because obviously I can't flip cars, it's some kind of condition I have, but the car was laying on its side. I decided to just run for it because we were kind of going towards the bridge for the military base anyway, but I turned around because the guys were talking about how they're going to flip it over. He shot one of the front tires out and then got in the vehicle, and sure enough, the thing flipped over. So you guys will have to give this a try for yourself. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture it for myself. I figured spending an hour on the thing was not worth it for me to just show it off to you when I had a perfectly good example from my stream. Number 9, don't always focus on finishing the down player. Now this is really important because I find this all the time. My friend will go down or I'll go down, and instead of actually focusing on the other player, all the enemy player wants to do is just get the kill. And a lot of times this doesn't end well in their favor. Even if they take me out, my friend just runs up and just wipes them from the match. But a lot of times what they do is they're trying to shoot me and they're not paying attention, and my friend will come up and actually take them down, and he's able to save me. Instead, what he could have did is just let the guy sit there for a little bit, see if their buddy comes, because their partner is going to be running in to try and save his teammate from getting taken out while down. Because it's very rare that people actually just leave the people that are down to sit there and kind of bait their teammates to come for them. Now I know the downside of this is that the down player can actually give information to their teammate on where this person is. And trust me, I try and get kills too. Someone actually commented saying, it's kind of disappointing to see you always go for the kill, always go for the down player, A lot of times in those videos it's more of a revenge thing. If one of my teammates goes down and then gets finished right away, if I knock one of their players, you bet your ass I'm going to be taking them out as soon as I possibly can, just for revenge. But a lot of times what I like to do is just kind of let the players sit there for a minute. If their teammate doesn't come, then I'll finish them off so I can secure that kill. But I'll try and bait their teammate to come for us. That way you can get 2 kills instead of 1. If you kill somebody too early, the teammate just might bail, and then you miss out on that potential kill as well. But I'm not going to lie, some days I just go for it, and some days I pay for it. Number 10. Punch out a window to make them think that you vaulted out. Now this is one of those tricks that might not come in handy all the time. You might not use this even ever, but if you can think of it in the moment, it can confuse the other players. It can make them think that you vaulted out of a window. Say you're up in the 2nd story, you vaulted out and now you're running away. They might look a certain direction and then you can ambush them from a different angle. And to be honest, this might not work. It might just be a dud. You might punch out the window and nothing happens, but what's the worst that can happen? You just made a little more noise. They know you're there anyway, it doesn't really matter. If you can think of it in the moment to try and punch out the window to make them think that you vaulted, it might just turn the fight in your favor, and that's all you're really looking for. Any little advantage that you can get in PUBG to kind of turn the odds in your favor. Number 11. Open doors and then peek from a different angle. So if you're running up to a building and you don't know if someone's in there, one of the worst things that you can do is actually just open the door and just blindly just sprint right into it. Instead, what I like to do is I like to just run past the door and open it. A lot of times if I do that, if someone's inside watching the door, they'll then fire thinking that someone's running in, and now you know exactly where that player is. And what you can do is you can open the door and then kind of peek from a different angle. You can look through a window, you can maybe just wait to peek through the door, you can go around and peek through a different window or go through a different door. The options are kind of open from there, but one of the worst things you can do is just sprint right into a door, unless you're running from gunfire or something like that and you're in a big hurry. If you have the time and you don't know if someone's there, just open the door, take your time, and then go in. Number 12. Share your inventory with your teammates. Now this seems simple enough, but if you play with enough people, you'll find that people are stingy with their loot. It's plain and simple. They just don't want to give it up. If they have a 4x scope, but they don't have a gun that can actually equip it, or it would be more useful for the one I have, they might not want to give that up. And to be honest, a team game like PUBG, where if you're playing duos or squads, it's about having the best team composition possible. It's not about having the best player on your team possible with the best equipment. It's about how much you can work as a team to try and win the match. For example, if I have a 4x scope and I have an AR and an SMG, but my friend has a mini and an AR, I'm going to give the 4x scope to him so that he has the 4x scope on the sniper rifle, and then maybe he'll give me a 2x scope or a red dot or something like that if I'm needing one, but it's all about giving the team the best chance to win. Now I have an example here where I actually gave my friend a 4x scope, and he decided to go out there and wipe out the last 4 players remaining in the match using that 4x scope. I had a 2x scope on my AR, and I could have easily just kept that for myself and been stingy with my loot and tried to get all the kills for myself. But realizing he had a sniper rifle and had basically the best use for that 4x scope, I decided to drop it for him and give it to him, and it paid off because we won the match. But this really goes for anything. A lot of times my teammates and I will just call out what we have. I have 3 first aids, 10 bandages, and 3 drinks. And then one guy might say, okay, I have 20 bandages and 4 boosts. Well, what I'm going to do in that situation is I'm going to give my teammate one of my first aids. That way, if later on he gets down or if he gets shot at, he has that first aid in his back pocket. I don't necessarily need all 3 at that moment anyway. We need to share our loot to make the best team composition possible. It'll give you the best chance to win. Even if you're the best player on your team and you think that you have the best chance to do something, if someone has a weapon that could use an attachment that you have, or if you can share your healing or extra ammo, then that's something that you want to do so you have the best chance to get that chicken dinner. Now I hope that some of these tips and tricks were useful to you guys. I know that some of these aren't the most complicated. They are very much common sense, and I'm sure I'll get tons of comments like that in the comment section below, just telling me that only noobs should watch this because this is all common sense, stuff like that. You know, those elite players that I was talking about in the disclaimer in the beginning. But really, my tips and tricks videos aren't for the elite player. I'm not a pro at the game. I'm not one of the best players, not even close. So what I like to do is kind of share the mistakes that I make myself and the ones that I see other players making. PUBG is all about finding those little bits and pieces to add to your game to make you a better player and make you a better teammate. And so hopefully these 12 tips and tricks were able to help you do that. Now, like I said before, since I started covering PUBG back in January of this year, I've made 3 other tips and tricks videos, and they have 46 tips and tricks in total. So if you guys are looking for more advice, more little things that you can add to your game. Definitely check them out. Like I said, I'll have them linked in the description. But that's all for this one. If you ended up liking the video or if you found anything useful at all, definitely give it a like. And maybe hit subscribe to stay up to date on everything PUBG Xbox. I like to do tips and tricks, guides, and things like that, as well as go over all the patch notes whenever they do come out so you're staying up to date and well informed. And I'll also throw in some full game commentaries and other random videos like that right here on this channel. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. But until next time, I'll see you later.